Hello, welcome back. Another day of dealing with tabletop role-playing games, making stuff and creating monsters. For those of you who are wondering, we're dealing with the demonic toads, the things that like to inject eggs into you, Slaad, Slaady, whatever you want to call them, toadkin, toad monsters, whatever. And I thought it would be nice to sort of bring that across to Shadowdark. So I'm going to put this across as a poll. I'm going to ask you a question, just curious as to how people are feeling about this if you're here. And then we're going to go into this fairly quickly, build this, make this, show you how it's done. Can I just say that I suggest grabbing some food, some drink, making sure you are comfortable. And I'm going to do this as quickly as I possibly can. So you can get on with your day and I can too. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Wheeler. And today I want to talk about tabletop role-playing games. Specifically, I'm looking at Shadowdark, which is just another version of Dungeons & Dragons, really. And I want to look at monsters, and the monster I've selected is the Slaad, Slaady, toadkin, xenomorph, whatever you want to say. It's basically a creature that kind of looks amphibious and injects eggs into you that hatch and then break out of your chest. So it's very much taken from the Aliens movie. It's that concept, basically. For those of you who are wondering, do I look like I'm cold? Yes, it is cold here in New Zealand. I am wrapped up pretty good. And I put up in a poll and I'm asking you whether you are enjoying or liking the Shadowdark monster stat block building that I'm doing on the channel, because I want you to be able to build your own stuff if you want to. You don't have to, of course, but I'm just interested to see. So by all means, please take part in that poll. It gives me a good idea of where people are at. I really do appreciate it. And Slaady or Slaad is IP, so we were going to avoid the official name if we do anything with it beyond this live stream. Okay, that's sort of where my head is at. And so I usually ask a question about all the monsters we make here. And the first question that I have for you is a really simple one, and that is, what would you do with a Slaad? Okay. What do you think the Slaad monster stat block for Shadowdark needs? That is my question. What do you think the Slaad monster stat block for Shadowdark needs? Because there isn't currently one in the core book. The core book does not include Slaad, okay? One of the things I've discovered is by looking at Shadowdark and its stripped down version, it actually helps me refine 5e or 2024 or 2025, whatever the heck it's called, the new version of D&D. It had solved a lot of problems with trying to figure out what is going on, or what is an issue, what is something that I could fix. So let's go over to my page here that I've been working on. This is getting bigger and bigger. This project is in conjunction with AJ Pickett. You'll find his YouTube channel down below, but you'll also find a link for those of you who like Shadowdark and want to use classes and ancestries. You can pick up the player's expansion for Shadowdark RPG down in the description, and it has 10 classes, 17 ancestries, created by myself, AJ Pickett, Mitchell Reed, Wally DM did layout, and my brother did the cover art. Okay, so now we're not going to deal with the monster lore. I've got some questions around monster lore that we'll deal with later. Let's just look at the Slaad stat block itself. So this is what I've written down. A humanoid amphibian that comes in multiple coloured skin, okay, with large heads and sharp claws. Primarily, I think that is the basics in terms of what Slaad, or the xenomorph is another name for it, kind of looks like, right? They transform into other humanoids, so they can actually change form, injecting eggs into other creatures and communicating telepathically. So we have a couple of different things that we're playing around with and dealing with here. And I have only built in part of that aspect to the Slaad. And you'll notice I have put down they transform into other humanoids. If you go back to AD&D, right, back to say Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first or second, you'll notice that there's a little section in there that talks about the fact that Slaad can actually change their form and appear as something else. Now it depends on what colour the Slaad is, but I'm not really I'm worried about that. I think that's probably the least important aspect of it. But I do think the idea that they can become some other creature is very interesting, and the fact that they would use you as a host by injecting an egg into you that can then turn into one of them and then bust out later on is kind of scary, right? It's very alien. Okay, so starting off, one of the first things is I look at the hit dice in AD&D, and it says it's got 7 hit dice. So I put down level 7. That's why I've marked down level 7. Okay, now this game is also very much based off 5e. It's very, very well connected to that. But the 5e Slaad is a challenge rating 5 monster. And then, of course, you can have something like a 7, a 8, a 9, depending on what colour it is. I decided in the end 7 is the number to go with. Okay, we'll go back to that. They're chaotic because they tend to be evil. That's sort of traditionally what they have been. They're not, you know, you could say, well, they're just neutral, but no, I think they are relatively intelligent for what they are, and yeah, their motives aren't that great. You could just say that they are just a parasite in many cases. Okay, so level 7 is what we're dealing with. So there's a couple of things to look at. First off, go to your 5e monster, and you'll find that Slaad generally have an armor class of 14. That's fine. So I've marked down armor class 14, right? Hit points will are determined by the level of the monster. So that's level 7 monster. So the equation for figuring that out is nice and simple, but we'll come back to it. We'll deal with attacks and its movement. Most creatures move right near, you know, which is about 30 feet. Now these things don't necessarily swim, even though they're amphibian. They don't. Well, they certainly look amphibian, but Slaad don't seem to swim, which is kind of strange. So I've put them down as near as their movements. There's movement near. Okay, now let's look at its stats. I've gone with strength +3 from the 5e stat block. Dexterity is a +2, so we'll keep that as well. That's fine. Constitution is +3. Okay, we'll keep that. -2 for the intelligence, and this is probably one of those times where it's kind of odd. Like, well, do I go with it? No, it's more intelligent, because I can use intelligence to be represented in wisdom or intelligence. It doesn't have to be intelligence only. So we'll go with the -2 for now, and then wisdom -2 as well. Again, this might be better off if it goes up to like a 0. I feel like you've got to have some sort of nuance and brains. So I'm going to change this. Instead of the minus, I'm going to go with a +0. So it's very average, okay? And then charisma -2. Fine with that as well. Okay, so we'll keep that. Now let's go and look at this chart and table. This is the Shadowdark creation table I made up a little while back. It's available on Patreon for free as a free tier. You can download it. I believe I've put it right at the top so you can find it easy. And it goes from level 0 right through to level 10. Nothing beyond level 10 is worthwhile putting into a table, because nothing beyond level 10 makes any sense whatsoever. So there's no way I can make a table for it. Okay? Okay, so the first thing I would suggest to you is, if we're dealing with level 7, our attack bonus should probably sit between a +5 and a +8. I would say +7 is probably the best number we could select for our attack. This one is actually +5. Now I've taken that partly because its strength is a +3, and so I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't want to push it too far away from the +3. We could base their bite and their claws on dex or strength. It wouldn't matter too much, right? So we could go either way and it would be fine. So what I did in the end is I decided, okay, no, it's all right. We're still within the parameters of a level 7 monster, because if you see, level 7 monster can be a +5 up to a +8. So I'm going to say its ability to hit is probably not going to be as good as as most level 7 monsters, because it's got a special ability that's pretty nasty. It can do some very horrible things, right? So we take that into consideration. Okay, the next thing is, it's pretty clear to me that when I looked at AD&D and the 5e Slaad, that this monster has this strange ability to be able to bite and claw, right? So its bite, let's just make the bite a D8, and let's make the claws a D10. I differentiated them. It took me a little while to decide whether I needed to do that or not, and I think ultimately in the end, when I was looking at it, I was thinking, in many respects, it probably doesn't matter. But I looked back to AD&D and I decided, no, let's go with the claws are probably more dangerous than the bite itself. But you only get 2, so you get 3 attacks. So it's a level 7 monster. How many attacks do we normally get? Between 3 and 4. So I've gone with the lower end, again, because of the parasite effect. So it gets 1 bite and 2 claws. That's how you operate your monster. You have no ranged attacks whatsoever, so you're not going to be using ranged attacks. That's not how they operate. That's fine. It's all good. And now we're going to keep our +5. I'll do that for the claws and the bite. I don't think we need to change them. Now the damage output for a level 7 monster off this table for level 7, you'll see is anywhere between an 8-sided dice and a 10-sided dice. Anything like that would be fine. Okay. All right, so I've done exactly that. I've just leaned more into the claws. We're going to add the parasite effect to the claw attack. Now, the reason being we're leaning into the parasite on the claws is because AD&D does describe that the claws are what inject the egg into the body of its host. And there's a 25% chance that that might actually happen. So it's not a huge chance, which is why I made the DC quite low. It's quite an easy DC. Okay, so your DC 9 Constitution check or an egg is injected into the body that hatches in the host within 3 months. So it's going to take a long time for it to actually come through. And unless they realize that they have been infected with the egg, they're not going to be able to do. They're not going to see the end result of it for 3 months. Now I could put here DC 9 Constitution check or egg injected into body that hatches in the host within 3 months, or egg injected into the body that hatches in the host within 3 months. I didn't say anything about them dying. I just say that it hatches in them, and I'm going to leave that very open, quite deliberately. Okay. So we've done most of the maths with this. I want to go back to our table. So here it is, level 7 monster, and the formula down the bottom is how we determine hit points. I've said this before, so we'll do it again. Yes, I'll show you this quickly, but it's not available to anybody. That is a Shadowdark combat encounter builder, by the way. That's a table I've been working on. So it's an 8-sided dice, so we're going to go 4.5, which is the average, multiplied by the monster level and add the Constitution modifier, and that is how many hit points we allocate to our Slaad. That's how it's going to work. Very, very simple. It's not hard to figure out. It is one aspect of it that doesn't require a lot of guesswork when deciding whether to go up or down. It's just going to work that way every single time. So 4.5 multiplied by 7 for the monster level gives us 31. Add our Constitution modifier only once. You only add the Constitution modifier to hit points for monsters and characters once. That's it. Okay, so we're going to add that 3 for the Constitution, and it comes out at 34, which is why hit points is 34. So 1 bite, 2 claws, attack bonus +5. We've got most of our bits and pieces here, and there's one aspect that I haven't written in here, and this is one of those times where I guess you have to decide whether you want this to be in your monster. Do you want your xenomorph to operate this way? Or do you want your xenomorph just to simply plant eggs in somebody else that then bust out later on, causing all sorts of strife? And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to put here transform. So 1 minute to change shape. So you're not going to be doing it as an action with your monster. Okay, it's not going to be happening in combat. It's going to have to happen beforehand. 1 minute to change shape into any humanoid let's just say Slaad has seen. There we go. And that pretty much gives us the bulk of what we need for this monster. Now, you're probably wondering, well, hang on, what about these stats? Are these stats actually within the parameters of level 7 monster? Well, that's the great thing about it. Okay, hit points anywhere between 30 and 35, 31 being sort of what you would normally see for a level 7 monster. We've got 34. Armor class between 9 and 18. We've got a 14. That's fine. Even though its dexterity is not high, we just consider that the type of armor it has, it's because of it's just tough skin. Okay. And difficulty classes sit between 9 and 18. I've put the difficulty class very low because we don't want to be implanting too many eggs in our player characters too often. Otherwise, it's going to happen a lot. Okay, and they're not going to know for 3 months, right? You could complete an entire adventure with your player characters and then wind up with it happening. Who knows? The lowest stat you would normally see is a minus 4 for a level 7 monster, and the highest modifier is a +5. And you'll notice that all of our numbers sit within that reasonably well. So we're not that far out from them. There's nothing extravagant, nothing too low, nothing too high. Okay, so it should all work reasonably well. That's just based off our table here. And you would allocate it normal or fabulous treasure because it is a level 7 monster. So very, very simple. It's not as hard as it sounds. What you either do is you start off with a D&D monsters or a 5e monster, maybe both, if you have both those books, like a 5e book, whether it's the new modern one for 2025 or the 2014. And then if you've got an AD&D book or access to the stat block for the same monster, you can use that as a guide for how difficult the monster should really be. Okay? And then you go from there. If there's anything in the core rulebook for Shadowdark that's very similar to what you're trying to make, maybe you're trying to make a completely new monster and there's something similar and you want to base it kind of on the structure of that, you could do that. But you can still go through and use that table to sort of tweak it to make sure it's going to work the way you want it to. Okay? And so that is the Slaad or Xenomorph. I will put this up onto Patreon for the paid tier. Again, the table is available for the free tier. And for anybody who wants to play as expansion for Shadowdark RPG with some classes and some ancestries, you're welcome to go and download it because it's pay what you want. You can pay nothing or you can pay something. It's up to you. I don't care. It's all good. All right, so let's go and have a look at chat. What do we got here? I've been talking for a while, well, at least 20 minutes. Toad can originate from a plane adjacent to the water plane and the earth plane. Hello, John. How are you doing? Fred Hubert is a patron and a moderator. Thanks for being here. I'm really interested in the poll, so if you haven't commented on the poll, please do, okay? Mage's Musings. Hello. Now, Mage's Musings has a channel, for those of you who don't know. Mage's Musings tends to deal with older versions of Dungeons and Dragons. So, yeah, good evening. How are you doing? I guess 2.5 is where everyone tried to agree on rules. 5,000 pages is complicated. Look, every version of Dungeons and Dragons is complicated. I would probably the simplest version of D&D I've come across so far, including old school essentials, is this one. And this is still a complicated game. It's got 300 something pages in it. Even basic D&D, the Rule Cyclopedia, it's a complicated game. They're not low light. They're not light games. They're heavy. Once the stat block is done, will you work up a gothic adventure, like the Curse of Slaad? I believe people have been requesting that we do an adventure about a pirate town. So I think next week I'm going to try and make an adventure about a pirate town. As for an adventure about cursed Slaad, I don't know. We'll see. It really depends. Yeah, sometimes people throw ideas at me and I think they're a good idea, and sometimes I'm like, maybe not. Slaad salad. So I haven't decided, Mage. You've been trying to listen to Ed. Oh, Ed Greenwood. Are you talking about Greenwood? To mock a killing salad. Within this monster, threat is a Slaad scale. There is a Slaad scale? Yeah, I suppose. Look, honestly, I think the Slaad is a very dangerous monster. Just because if you do it right, they may never know that they have an egg in them. If they know what the monster is, they will suspect that there's something there, and they'll do everything they can to make sure there is nothing growing inside them. Could be anything. All right, okay. PCs infected. You like infecting the PCs of Slaad? I don't think the PCs like that very much, but it is. Look, monsters are monsters. Okay. There's got to be something about a monster that makes it really weird and really strange and kind of scary. That's the whole point of monsters. Your PC has morning sickness. They're pregnant with a baby tadpole. Yeah, no, I know. Look, I know it's tough working out there. I totally get it. What do you got here, Mage? I like that Shadowdark and OSE are complicated enough for easy conversion. Yeah, that is one of the things that Old School Essentials and Shadowdark do allow, is conversion is easy. Home brewing is actually very easy. I've been doing a lot of monster stat block stuff for 5e, like, you know, the modern version, and even 2025. But also Shadowdark, because that is the only system that AJ will support right now, because frankly, stat blocks are very bloated in modern D&D and are very hard to get your head around. AD&D stat blocks are actually quite slim, you know, but you realise that it's not just the stat block you need, it's the combat section that you require as well. If you're familiar with AD&D, got your monsters, check out the egg seeker. Okay, maybe worth a conversion. Okay, I believe that I have only been really kind of covering sort of traditional D&D monsters and porting them over to Shadowdark, because I've been waiting for AJ to be ready to start working back on the project. He'll be drawing original monster art, and I'll be putting in the thumbnail as sort of sample artwork and building monsters specifically to that. So we're going to make a monster book for Shadowdark with completely original monsters that you haven't seen before. So that's what's going to happen in the future. Okay, so now that I've said all that, let's have a look at this poll, because I'm kind of curious. I expect that most people are really not that interested. Not a lot of people show up to these live streams. And I do notice that it's, you know, they get reasonable watches, I guess, at the end compared to what I was doing before with 5e. I think the difference is about 40 or 50 views. It's not that much more or less. It's, you know, it's really nothing in the drop in a bucket, really. Are you enjoying the Shadowdark RPG monster stat block building live streams? Yes, 50% out of 4 votes. Undecided, just watching. Okay, all right. So because I've had way too much to say about Shadowdark, and these monster building live streams get longer and longer and longer because I waffle on about stuff that I like or don't like, tomorrow I'm going to take the time to waffle on and tell you about all the things that I like about Shadowdark and I don't like about Shadowdark. It is not a review. I am not reviewing the book. Will I review the book? Probably, but I don't think I'm going to review it yet. I just want to talk about the book and how it plays, because I've run games for Shadowdark, I've played in games, and I've had to design stuff for Shadowdark. I've designed 10 classes, 17 ancestries, a bunch of magic items, a whole bunch of monsters. And so what I really want to do is I just want to sort of, I guess the only way I can describe this is I want to unload all of my thoughts about this game. And then the reality is that will hopefully mean that when I do the live streams for the Shadowdark monster building, I'll be a bit shorter and just get on with stuff and move on. And just get all of this out and put it out to the ether, and then maybe 100 people will watch if I'm lucky. And that's fine. That's how it works. YouTube is certainly a wee lax in its job promoting our shows. There are thousands of YouTube channels now, unfortunately. You're probably doing better than me, Majors, honestly. I'm working on a video for a new, for next week on Shadowdark supplement called Unnatural Selection, if you're interested. It's pretty well done. Okay. I mean, I do watch a lot of stuff on Shadowdark. I do. I watch as many things as I can. Hello, Jasper. Nice to have you. Sorry, just missed past the hour. Look, I'm going to wrap it up. You're going to hear about Shadowdark enough as it is tomorrow. We're going to come back. For those of you who are wondering, Fred, are you going to talk about 5e? Are you going to talk about a different version of D&D? Are you going to talk about different different RPGs? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. That is definitely on its way. I'm definitely going to be making some stuff, fixing some of the problems that modern D&D 2024 or 25 has been kind of messed up a little bit and needs to be fixed. I'm going to do some live streams around that and some video stuff around that as well. I want to talk a lot about AD&D because it's really AD&D, basic D&D, version 4, version 3. They're very influential. They allow me to go where I need to go. But there are superhero RPGs on the way. Super Atomic. I don't really talk about Super Atomic that much, but that's coming. Okay. So yes, you will see plenty of modern D&D on the channel. You'll see some stuff on other role-playing games as well. Castles and Crusades. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it. I'm not going to promise that I'll do it fast, but I will eventually get there. It's and Pathfinder, although I am very much afraid of Pathfinder 2e. That is a system that scares the shit out of me in so many different ways. Or how we build a map and play session in just under an hour on the fly. There's no way. Look, I've done stuff that sort of shows and explains how to do that. The only way to do that sort of stuff is to practice. You prepare to improvise and you practice. And then you suffer the consequences, the good and the bad. It's as simple as that. There's no other way of saying it. Like, there's going to be good and bad in that, you know? But anyway, let's get out of here and you get on with your day. I'll see you tomorrow. Lots of blabbing from me tomorrow about a game system that I've been playing and running a lot, okay? So huge thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening. Thank you to the people who voted in the poll. I do appreciate it. Huge thank you to everybody who's a patron and supporting me on Patreon in the paid tier rather than the free tier. I don't mind people joining for free and using the free tier, but really it's the support and the paid tier is the thing that really makes the big difference for me. And I want to thank those people in chat. So Jasper, who is a patron, John, Mage Musings, who's got his own YouTube channel, and I really appreciate showing up. It's nice to have somebody else pop in. And Fred Huber, who is consistently here and consistently giving feedback, and I really do appreciate that. It's a big help, and thank you so much. So thank you for watching and listening. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, okay, or the wee early morning, that could be the case as well. Please look after yourself, your family, and your friends, okay? Be nice to your neighbours, as long as your neighbours are not xenomorphs that want to implant eggs in you. If they want to do that, then maybe you don't need to be nice to them. But otherwise, be nice to them. Until next time, keep rolling those 20s.